When I was a couple weeks short of my 70th birthday, I started thinking about my mother's mother, who lived to be 100, and her mother, who lived to be 102, and my father, who lived to be 90. I began to think that maybe our generation could be the first to routinely live to be 100. When I talked about this at family dinner one night, my granddaughter, who was 5, said,
"What are you going to do for the next 30 years, Grandpa?"
Hello, I'm Dr. Janet Price.
And I'm Gregg Kaloust. And we are Oldish. And this is our podcast, Oldish.
If you're oldish or know someone who is, please join us every week for conversations amongst ourselves
And our special guests
about what it means to be oldish in the 21st century.
If you ever wonder whether you're getting old, you're oldish. What are you going to do for the next 30 minutes?
Hi, I'm Janet, and I'm oldish.
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm Oldish. Our guest today is Richard Wexler. He is CEO of A Plan to Age, a nonprofit dedicated to the notion that it's not too soon to start to plan for the inevitable. He'll talk with us about their programs and about how we got here. Welcome, Richard.
Welcome. So first of all, Janet, Greg, I'm Oldish.
Well, welcome, the very wonderful community.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very interested in your organization. Lack of same has had a major impact on my family as my parents moved through aging, and my sister aged and passed away, and my brother and I are still going, but we're not planning. So we should be. So I'm very interested in your organization and what you do, and because I'm sure that my situation is not unusual. I'm quite certain that there's many people out there who keep saying, yep, I'll start planning tomorrow. And your website says, don't wait for a crisis.
Yeah, I wish they would say that.
So go ahead and give us a quick kind of a lowdown on your organization, and I'm sure that'll bring up some questions.
Sure. So try to make a long story short. So 20 years ago, in my early 50s, living in California, working in Silicon Valley, working in the software industry, married later, 3 small kids. My wife and I, between us, have all 4 parents get this in their 80s, and we think they're doing great. Never really talked to them about this stage in life. And then all of a sudden, in this summer of '05, phone starts ringing, and it turns out that all 4 are doing pretty poorly. So we then start a brand new adventure, caregiving. Had no idea what it was, had no idea how long it would last. It lasted 14 years until the last parent passed at 96 in 2019. And then probably 6 months into it, I'm sitting at my desk at work going, I can't even spell the word care. What am I doing? So realized I needed to really start understanding what it meant to have older parents, be a caregiver. That's what I was doing. Started my first company, Points of Life, and started reading everything I could. Google, as you guys know, was a lot different 20 years ago. And probably 6 months into that process, a gentleman shows up at my office and says, okay, have you learned stuff? Now get out there and start educating people about what it means to get older and what it means to need care. And I'm kind of thinking. So I started educating all over Northern California. To make a long story short, the guy shows up again and he goes, okay, young man, go national. So now all of a sudden I'm educating nationally, still doing it. When COVID hit, moved from in-person where I've been in front of thousands to more online. Started my own podcast here in America 2 years ago. As I hit 70, it's like, how can I still do this and find a little easier way? Met my future business partner, who's the co-founder of A Plan to Age, Peter Ross, who is the co-founder and CEO of Senior Outburst, one of the largest in-home care companies. And I said to him, we got to do more. And I didn't even know what more meant. And he said, I agree. And we talked for a year and a half. And then earlier this year, launched A Plan to Age. we can talk more about that. We literally are trying to get people to understand everything my wife and I did, why they should plan before older mom and dad, grandparents have a serious health event.
That's quite a journey.
You've been through the caregiving part, and you're kind of like the explorer who comes back and says, there's something really good over that mountain, but we better know how to get there or we're not going to make it. Yeah. That's one of the definitions of a hero. So we appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Well, I thank you. And I mean, for all these 20 years, and 14 of those 20 being the caregiver, my wife was hands-on. I came out of the software industry, so I called myself the project manager. I kind of oversaw the care and all four parents and finding resources and whatever else we needed to do. But today, just like then, it's like, how do we help people? I mean, I tell people, I'm kidding, but I tell people, look, I'm special. I'm old. I'm 4 parents. Most people will get one, and one's tough enough, but it's not an easy road, especially if you don't have a roadmap and don't know where you're going.
It's kind of in the nick of time, because I think it's still the case that people don't have that. When I was growing up, my father's parents, I grew up outside of Boston, and my father's parents had moved out to California after the war with some of his brothers. And in the early 60s, as they started getting old and sick, the brothers called my father up and said, we can't do this anymore. We're sending them back to you. And right around that same time, my mother's parents, who lived a few miles away, decided that they were going to sell their house and move to Florida. And they did the house selling part, but they didn't do the move to Florida part right away. So we had all 4 of my grandparents living in our house at the same time. Wow. And nobody had any idea how to do that.
And it hasn't changed much. I tell people, look, we have 3 choices. We can bring someone in like Peter's company, senior helpers. It's expensive. Second option, if mom or dad agrees to it, we can move them to an assisted living, memory care. It's expensive. Or the third option, like you're talking about, Gray, so like most adult kids, they'd move far away from where they grew up. They get the phone call, or nowadays the text, mom's in the ER, she fell. They think she broke her hip. And you're going, well, in the 4 states away, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to go to help her. Then you get there and find out, because you have no preparedness, you get there and find out how long this may take. And you go, what do I do with my spouse? What do I do with my kids? What do I do with my job? Mom's not going to be better in a week. This could take months or longer. And I try to explain to people, that's where most people are going to be. And I've said for a long time, put my hand up, there's a really small percentage of people in this country that'll go, Mom, Dad, thanks for the great life. Good luck. But most people aren't going to do it.
But it sounds like all of your work, including this new venture, you've gotten a big response. You talked about before COVID, speaking to thousands of people at a time. This sounds like it's resonating with, I don't know if it's oldish people, maybe a little bit younger and older, that are thinking about it.
We need, I use a big word, everybody, to understand. When I talk about everybody, let's go majority. So let's say 18 and above. My kids were 11 and 7, and it affected them. It still resonates with them. So I explained that 18-year-old mom may call him and say, I got to go take care of your grandmother. I need you to be coming by the house, feed the dog, water, pick up the newspaper, just doing things he or she has never done. And all of a sudden, their life's a little different just because mom is maybe in a different state, taking care of her mom.
I noticed one of the quotes on your website was by Rosalind Carter, and it said, there are only 4 types of people in the world: One, those who have been caregivers. Two, those that are caregivers. Three, those that will be caregivers. And four, those who will need caregiving. I love that quote.
It's so true. I want to bore you guys in your audience numbers. So I'm 72. The oldest boomers are turning 80. That's insane to me. Yo-yos, hula hoops, not anymore. And then we have over 100 million people 50 and older in this country. And I literally am saying to people, whenever I stand in front of them or do this online, how in the blue blazes are we going to care and, first of all, house and care for over 100 million people 50 and older? And if we don't make some significant change in this country, I hate to say what I'm about to say, but we're going to fail. I tell people, buckle up. Unless we make some pretty big changes, we're going to see thousands of seniors sleeping on street corners because they have no other place to go.
One of the alternatives is Soylent Green, and I don't think any of us wants that particular future. Jenny, you look like you don't know what I meant.
I know what you mean. We were just talking about that book the other day.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was you I was talking to about that, yeah.
I'm just thinking about all of this.
We're trying to do as much education as we can. Trying, I think this will be audio tomorrow, but there's a baseball bat in back of me. I'm kidding about what I'm about to say, but it's like I want to take that bat and gently hit people over the head and say, wake up. I mean, I can tell you 95% of us are going to go through this at some degree. So either get prepared or deal with it in person.
Do you find that of the people that are responsive, that are reaching out to you, what the percentage is of older people who are advocating for themselves and find your treatment plan and can move forward with that? And how much of it is the younger generation that's starting to have concerns about their parents?
It's interesting. I find whether they're 30, 40, 50, or 65 plus, again, it's a subject that most people have in the back of their head. But for a lot of reasons, including fear, they don't want to bring it up. Mom and dad may have been the hero. Mom and dad can't get old. Mom and dad can't get to a position where they have difficulty walking, or they can't remember my name and they call me by their brother's name. But it's just until we figure out a way to really keep this body of ours going in a better fashion than we currently do. And you got this, we're in such, talk about being oldish, we're in such a different situation now than we were 30, 40, 50 years ago with medicine. In medical treatment. But what I'm trying to explain to people, irrespective of your age, this is reality, and maybe along the lines of your question, Janet, what's also difficult as we age, thinking about, I'm not 40 anymore, I'm not 50 anymore, I'm 70 or 80 or 85, and what do I want to do? And maybe I'm still in good health. And if something happens to me, 99% of people are going to say, I just want to stay somewhere else. But for a lot of people, it isn't reality.
Do you find that some of your work is based, or some of your work has to focus on politics, on political advocating? Because I'm just thinking about how it can go up and down as far as the kind of financial supports that are available for organizations, for individuals.
What we're trying to do is create mass communication not about to get political. There's nothing, I can't find a conversation in Washington, D.C. about this issue. I've been asked many times, so people get to Congress and making something up. They get a phone call, Mom back in Kansas fell and she needs help. The average person in Congress will just pay for care and someone will take care of mom. And they seem to have this, I use the word crazy idea that the average person in this country can do that, and we can't. So we need conversations in Washington. We need conversation, and I don't see or hear them at every state government around the country, because we had this crazy older population. The three of us were part of it. The parents had a lot of fun after World War II creating all of this, but now there's a price to pay.
What do you feel as we're moving forward? Do you feel a sense of crisis? Do you feel hopeful? What do you feel about people aging and getting the supports they need?
Yeah, I'm always hopeful. I got asked that question earlier today. I'm always hopeful. I mean, am I frustrated at times? Yes. Do I really? I mean, I'm this one old stiff guy outside of Boise, Idaho, trying to wake up a country. I'll tell you more about the conversation on aging we're doing, and really trying to wake up a country to understand that. I know you don't want to talk about what I'm talking about. I know you'd rather plan a vacation to Hawaii or the Bahamas. I get it. It's real. And we have a couple choices, and the other choice isn't that great. So I get frustrated, but I'm also hopeful that we can get enough voices talking about this. I don't want to offend anybody, and potentially even your audience, but I assimilate this to what we've seen over the last 30 years with smoking. 30 years ago, we had a lot of people in this country that smoked, and all of a sudden, these public service announcements come out on TV. You're even seeing someone smoke out of their tracheotomy, and we kind of figured out maybe it wasn't the best thing to do. We need something similar. Well, we need to understand we're getting older. I mean, I've dealt with many people in their 70s that are taking care of parents in their 90s. So it's applicable right through the age groups.
It's important to feel hopeful.
Yeah, a good friend of mine had an aging relative who she became the primary, she didn't become actually the caregiver, but she was the primary planner, primary, person helping with the paperwork and so on and so forth. And she reported to me, she'd call me up and she said, I was just talking with him. And I said, you got a plan? And he said, I will when the time comes. And you got to be 95 and he still hadn't planned anything. And guess what? The time came. And at that age, he wasn't capable of doing the planning. So she had to do it all, and she was in her 70s.
Not fun.
The heck?
It's not a fun subject. And again, for a lot of families, the parents in our generation are heroes. And the parents, even before then, that fought in World War II and Korea and Vietnam and so on. And we don't want to think about something happening to them. I've heard what you said so many times, Greg. No, it's not going to happen to me, but if it does, we'll just figure it out and we'll kind of put a plan together then. And it just doesn't work.
I was just thinking that it would be helpful to have something like this in training programs. So I'm a psychologist, to have that in one of the classes. How do you help people at any age get ready for the inevitable,
Mm-hmm.
if anyone lives that long, because it doesn't happen for all of us, but if we do get to live a long time, wouldn't it be nice for, like you said, every age to be aware of this?
So I have a lot of crazy ideas. One that I've had was I created a class called Elder Ed, and I wanted Elder Ed taught at the DMV, through the DMV, when you turn 65. So to be able to get your license renewed or get a license, you had to take and pass Elder Ed to understand what is most likely going to happen in your life. I would still, kind of along the lines you're talking about, Janet, I would still love to see that happen, because we as a nation just have to understand that, again, this is real. I tell people 95% of us will need care, whether it's a few hours, a few years, or for most of us, something in between. Average cost on an assisted living, before you pay for care, just to get a room, average cost around the United States is $5,000 a month. I was talking to someone earlier who has both parents in a situation that's spending $15,000 a month. So it
Wow.
is.
Yikes.
It is insane.
Yikes. And that's before the care part. A lot of people don't have that kind of money to ship off to their parents, or their parents. It's like my parents worked their whole lives amassing a really modest amount of wealth, and it was all gone. The end of life sucked it down. They actually were pretty well off. I think there's going to be a national crisis because there's a lot of people. I think a very high percentage of people in America now are living kind of paycheck to paycheck. There's no possibility that you can live paycheck to paycheck and manage your way through an aging parent or aging self crisis when you're living paycheck to paycheck, especially if the paycheck goes away.
So let me give you another number that's insane. So average cost around the United States to bring in a professional caregiver into the home that most people want, I think it's insane. So you live in a different state. You're the adult child. Mom or dad lives different state. They need 24-hour care. On average, you're looking at a small amount, I think that $29,000 a month.
Wow.
A month.
A month.
Holy smokes.
What's the average Joe and Joan in this country going? They have no idea these costs. I've said this to thousands of people, and I see the expression on your face. I've seen the expression on their face. You have to be kidding me. Obviously, over 20 years, that cost has gone up. So it's going to keep going up. So what do we do? Something I wanted to mention to you guys, and it's probably partly into what you guys talk about. We have created what we call the National Conversation on Aging and Care. We had our first Zoom call with that a month ago. We're going to have a Zoom call about that. If you could tell your listeners and tell people you work with, there'll be a Zoom call every month. The next call is going to be October 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern. That call is going to be extremely important. I've found sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning when I should be sleeping, over 10 different ways to pay for care. So we're going to discuss all these different ways that you can, because people don't understand what Medicare or Medicaid will or will not do. We'll talk about that. But then all these other ways where you can actually pay for care, because that's probably one of the biggest issues I've heard from people over all these years. Or they call me and they go, oh, not a problem. Mom's 85. She's been on Medicare for 20 years. So she's taken care of. And I have to tell her, no, that's not going to pay for long-term care.
Would you say, is there a majority number, a percentage of elderly people who need care that can't, what is the percentage of people that can get that care at home, or, and if not, where do elderly people go, aging people go?
5% of us can afford care. 5%. The other 95% can't. So again, there's a term out there that isn't a real term, and I hear this all the time, and I've been yelling about this for 20 years. There's that thing called a nursing home. They're actually called skilled nursing. So you see a lot of folks in the back of a skilled nursing facility long-term. They have to qualify for Medicaid. So they are that average middle class that can't afford $29,000 a month, $15,000 a month. How are they going to qualify for Medicaid? You're going to live in the back of a building that looks like a hospital, smells like a hospital, acts like a hospital. That's not where you and I would like to wind up. And then again, without getting political, but what we're seeing back in Washington, we're now seeing caregivers in skilled nursing not coming to work because they're fearful. So the staff is down. And as we see reimbursement on Medicaid get pulled back, that's paving the way for most people, and that may not be there as well. So I'm having to literally tell people, besides moving into mom's house or mom moving into your house, be prepared to mend her wounds, to help her walk, to help her recover from a broken hip, to help her after a stroke, all the things that would normally take place in skilled nursing, but there may not be the buildings and or the bed to make that up.
Yeah. And the people that do it, the people that do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I mean, it's reality, and I'm just trying. So do we have time? Yes. Is the silver tsunami coming? No, it's already here. It's probably halfway across this country, but we need to literally wake people up a level. We have put together an advisory council of some of the largest companies in this country. We're having more. And what we want them to do is consistently run their mouth with all their customers, clients, patients about this. The conversation on aging, we're creating something called an aging coach. So what is an aging coach? That is an ordinary individual that has come to our youth calls on aging and care, learns enough to have a conversational level of knowledge. So when he or she is talking to a coworker or a neighbor at the grocery store, and they get the comment, "Wow, my brother just called me, Mom fell. She's in the ER. I gotta hop on a plane and go back to wherever he grew up." And the next comment is, "I don't even know what I'm going to do when I get there." So that aging coach, just the neighbor, the coworker, "Hey, do you mind if I fill in some of the blanks? I've been attending classes on this." And hopefully the guy goes, "No, that'd be great."
Yeah.
Again, from a conversational level, you just start imparting enough information so when he gets to the hospital, he has an idea, including cost, which they've never seen before, as to what's coming.
Wow. And I'm not dead yet, doula.
We're literally taking one person at a time, trying to teach them and say, help your neighbor, help your coworker, help your friend, help your student. Learn enough about this to be, so you can educate other people. So, I've educated thousands. I have a small goal in front of me. I'm hoping I got 20 years left on this planet. We'll see. But I have a small goal of educating a few.
Well, I was just thinking, Richard, about what this journey has been like for you. So you worked in IT for many years, then this 4 times crisis of 4 aging parents. You shifted your whole focus in your life around aging and how this could work as well as possible. What has that been like for you?
It's been interesting, Janet, and obviously, and you may be similar. I think back on the past a lot. I think where I was 40, 50 years ago, I have a spinal condition. I can't do a lot now, but I was extremely active back then, played every sport, windsurfed, skied, snow skied, did all these things. And do you, when you're 40 years old, do you ever think that's going to change even as you get older. Why should it? I'll be doing that till I'm 85. And then reality sets in with, and I call them hurdles, these hurdles that get thrown at you. But really, it's been, I don't think I ever would have been there. I don't think I ever would have gotten 4 parents ill at the same time. I didn't realize I was going to wind up getting married later and in my early 50s, have 2 young children. I did. And so it's been an interesting journey. I'm very thankful I'm still here, do a lot on a daily basis, exercise-wise, and also from a mental standpoint, trying to keep the physical and the mental part of my body moving and active. But yeah, I think about it a lot. And some days I sit back and go, how in the blue blazes did I get to 72 years old? I was that 16-year-old, or I was that 40-year-old. Now I'm here.
Yep. So funny. I'm sitting here thinking about, I have 3 kids who are in their 40s, and I say things to them all the time to help them get ready for whatever's coming for me. And I just saw them recently, and I said to each of them, so if you see that I shouldn't be driving anymore, please tell me, because I don't know what that's like at that point, and we hear about whoever in our lives, our family, who is like, oh, they shouldn't be behind the wheel anymore. It's like, until your class and your course gets implemented and people can know more about specifically, okay, I'm 65, I'm 70. Okay, yeah, I need to stop. So I said to each of them, and I was saying that to one, and the other one said, oh, did mom say that to you too? It's like, yeah, I just want you each to know that I'm going to keep changing, and I might not even notice the ways that I'm changing and what it means.
Help people. As we get older, stuff just happens.
Nobody anticipates any of this. It's hard to do. When I was 40, I saw my parents getting older. I'd seen my grandparents getting older. But I had no idea what that really was going to be like or what it meant. So, and I'm sure that my kids are the same way. They're busy with their lives. And I think maybe I like the idea of tell me when I shouldn't drive anymore. I think I'm going to give each of my children a card that says on it, if you tell me it's time for me to stop driving, I'll do it, because I might not know myself. I might not notice.
Yeah.
My father's eye doctor, when my father drove himself to an eye appointment, the doctor said, how'd you get here? And he said, I drove. And he said, you're legally blind. You can't drive. And he said, well, I went slow.
It's one of the hardest conversations to have with older loved ones. Within a planned age, we teach what we call the family conversation. That's the conversation the 90 whatever percent don't have, that have to. It starts with siblings talking to each other, deciding which one of you, pick one, is going to call mom or dad. Doesn't have to be the alpha. It may be the youngest who has the closest relationship. And hopefully we teach you what to say when mom picks up the phone so she won't hang up. And then this will probably turn into multiple conversations. We teach them all the different subject matters they should be talking about. Then we have what we call a care plan that with mom, with dad, you can fill out online and download it. And then as things change in the family, update it. And part of that conversation is what you two were just talking about. When is it time, which is a really difficult conversation, to give up the car keys?
So I saw the care plan was on your website. Is there a place on your website that talks about and teaches about the family conversation?
That's on there as well, under the care tab, and it's going to teach you how, because I've been asked that question all the time. Maybe it's a boomer asking or a young adult, an adult child asking me about how I approach mom. And the first thing I'll say to them, you don't pick up the phone, call mom and say, Mom, we got to talk. what I found
Mhm.
is most parents, if a child calls and says, Mom, I need some help, I need some advice, Mom will usually be open to that conversation and it can get the ball rolling. And then gradually start talking about why you want to have this conversation. Because one of the biggest issues, and you guys have kind of talked about, if I get older, or I mean, wait, and if something were to happen to me, who is going to take care of? And I can tell you, if you ask most people our age, they're going to go, I'm going to live right here in my home. And it's a great starting point. I mean, you have to have this real conversation where, okay, if you need 24-hour care, you got 29,000 a month, not a problem.
I have a cute story, which is when my youngest, my daughter, was probably about 12. She said to me, Mom, I'm going to take care of you when you get old. So when you turn 60, I'll have a space in my basement that you can live in. So there's a part of me that's like, wow, why was she thinking about that so early? But I said to her, well, I hope that when I'm 60, I don't have to live in your basement. Or I said, I hope I can still live by myself. And I certainly not sure about the basement part. I said, but thank you. But now she's in her 40s and she's never forgotten. And she just says to me, I haven't forgotten. I'm going to be there for you. But I think that the care plan and everything that's on your website is something I want to share with my children, with my partner. We're both in our 70s with lots of people, my clients. I want to spread that word.
And you're going to understand what I'm about to say. A lot of this, I tell people it's physical, it's financial, but this whole caregiving journey is emotion. And trying to understand whether you're the individual getting the care or you're the caregiver, how do you... My wife, it's been really difficult on her with 4 parents. I mean, okay, they pass. How do you move on with life based on where you've been? So for a lot of people, the emotional report is extremely difficult.
Yeah, real challenges. And we don't as a culture know how. I'm not sure any culture has ever really known how, but we as a culture, we don't really know how to handle all that stuff. I mean, our culture has trouble with emotions on a good day. And I know my brother, when my parents got old and my mother got sick, my brother moved in to the family home to take care of them. Then my mother passed away. And before he had a chance to even start grieving, he had to start taking care of my father. So there's that whole emotional thing that doesn't happen for the child, the caregiver taking care of the parents. Grief is important. And my brother didn't get a chance to do that. One of the things that I've been thinking as we've been talking is there's that expression, it takes a village to raise a child. Seems like it takes a village to take care of our aging population, and it's time to village up. I mean, we gotta start talking with each other. We gotta start sharing these. You gotta start being honest about this stuff instead of being in denial all the time. I'm not gonna get old. Or I told my kids, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna fall off a mountain. I'm gonna be out mountain climbing. I'm gonna fall off a mountain, and if you find the body, have a party. If you don't find the body, have a party. But that's probably not going to actually happen.
I completely agree with you. And it's why we try so hard to get people to be talking about this horrible subject, which I get, because it is reality. When I'm standing in front of people, I look at people and go, okay, so who's older today than they were yesterday? And some people will look at me and like, what? You better raise your hand and you should be glad you're older today. And it's a really good thing. So the oldest client I've ever dealt with, we can look him up on the internet. He was in California and he died 9 years ago. And he didn't start getting ill to 150. and he died at
Wow.
160. So I also look at people and go, you are retired at 65 or 70. Are you set up to live another 40, 50 years? And again, people look at me like I'm drinking something or smoking something. It can be reality. Even living to 95 or 100, or we have so many people living beyond 100 these days, which is awesome if you're in hopefully pretty good shape. But we need to think about it.
Well, one thing I've hoped is that with the baby boomers aging in such a big number, I've been hoping that that would be a force that we are a force that would help move this whole conversation and planning and awareness forward.
And I hope you're right. And we're trying to really help them understand that. And I truly believe there's good in all of this. And if you can talk to coach one other family member, one other friend, one other person at the church synagogue, wherever you go, do your part, we'll be okay. But we need that communication level from just about everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't get this, oh, it's not going to happen to me, and it will be out there. People have to understand, so many of us have already gone through a caregiving situation. It may have been a few weeks. It could be years. The unfortunate part for most of us, it's coming.
Yeah.
Yep, everybody's going to have it. Well, we certainly appreciate the work that you're doing, Richard, and we'll do our best to spread the word. And for our audience, we'll put Richard's website, aplantoage.org, in the show notes and on our website. You can, I'm sure, get in touch with Richard there, and it's aplan2, then age.org. And if you didn't remember what I said, maybe it's a good thing we're having this conversation. I had to look it up 3 or 4 times before I could actually remember it, but it'll be in the show notes on the podcast on our website. And you can also leave questions or comments on our website. And we're kind of all in this boat together. For some of us, the iceberg is further away than it is for others, but the iceberg is out there. We really appreciate the efforts that you're going through to share what you learned going through it in your own family, Richard, and then doing what I think is the right thing is to decide that the word on that needs to be spread. And it's too hard to do all by yourself. And so for you to come out and help to get that word out will make it easier on all of us. But it still ain't going to be easy, folks. Don't wait for a crisis. Go to aplantoage.org today and get to work. And if it's not a crisis in your life, get to work learning how to plan for that crisis and how to help other people get through the crisis. We appreciate you coming to visit with us today, Richard. We'll do our best to get the word out. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing, and we'll send as many people your way as we can.
Thank you both. We very much appreciate it, very much appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, he's trying to help one family at a time and help people understand that it'd be nice if we didn't have to go through this process, but that's being oldest, and that's having younger children, and it is a process.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard.
Great. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Janet, as always. Thank you. So, bye-bye. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. This conversation about planning before aging becomes a crisis may be our most important one yet. Please visit aplantoage.org ASAP. You and your loved ones and your village will be glad you did. We have several more interesting guests coming up in the next few weeks, and a new edition of the Oldish Book Club. We're reading The Woman Who Met Herself by Laura Pearson soon. Stay tuned. You can leave comments or requests for topics or guests on this or other episodes at www.oldish.me. There's a link there, too, if you've wondered how you can help support our podcast.
If you like what you heard today, please tell a friend and rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Cattle